AskReddit buy winter beers. People who live at tourist destinations, what is it you wish tourists would stop doing when visiting? Don't freaking carve your name on stuff. The amount of people who need to carve their names onto historical buildings and statues are just crazy. Don't be an ass. You are ruining the place. And respect people's properties. Yeah, it's a cute street with cute houses and charming gardens. But that does not give you the right to enter people's private properties to peep in their windows, walk in their gardens and try to open their doors. A colleague is selling his house because he's tired of people peeping in their windows and trying to open their door to have a look inside. He got yelled at for being inappropriate while he was sunbathing in his own garden by a tourist who let themselves in the gate and walked around the house to have a look at his garden. WTF? Entering his property? Going on the black rocks and being swept out to the Atlantic Ocean, risking the lives of first responders and locals, many of whom are already traumatized from Swissair. Peggy needs her tourist sacrifices. Who are we to deny her what she's owed? For real though, if you come to Nova Scotia and go on the black rocks at Peggy's Cove, you need to know we take pictures of you and talk shit about you on social media. Deface World Heritage Sites for souvenirs or internet clout. For example, the Colosseum in Rome has graffiti carved into its walls by arsehole tourists, and Stonehenge is closed off to the public because arseholes were chipping pieces off for souvenirs. It is worth noting, at one point the caretakers at Stonehenge handed out rock hammers to tourists for the specific purpose of chipping off bits to take as souvenirs. That was before the modern idea of museum as conservation of history. For your sake, stop trying to pet the buffalo. Or don't. Some of us are entertained by the videos of you flying through the air. My mom used to work at Old Faithful in Yellowstone. Once, there was a buffalo standing outside the inn and a tourist asked my mom whose buffalo it was and if they could pet it. I live in Phuket. We see everything here. But for sweet Jesus titty fucking Christ's fuck's sake, wear at least a singlet when you go to a sit-down restaurant or cafe that's not in a direct tourism area. You have bare-chested bros swagger into a cafe where Thai office workers are, guns out, pecs out, sweating, and then order their twitacinus and proceed to sit there in bull sweat talking about loud bro things. Oh, and also stop driving drunk, you cunts. Yeah, that Marizo. Stopping their cars in the middle of the road to take in a view. WTF? They do this for wildlife where I live as well. I've seen idiots chasing bears with cubs into the forest to take pictures with their phones. A friend of mine lost a relative because a Turan in a bear jam didn't look before pulling back into traffic on the road because he was so focused on the bear and didn't see the cyclists. Hit one of them and broke the cyclist's neck. I paid a lot to be here. Change, blank, or I'll leave a horrible review. Driving like a dickhead, leaving garbage anywhere but a rubbish bin, stopping in the middle of the road to let out your family of 12 instead of pulling into the parking lot. I have a lot of stories. I live in Hawaii and work only with tourists. Best yet, my company was asked to contact the cruise ship company to have them move the ship because it disrupted the sunset. Please move that ship, it's making my sunset pictures bad. What kind of person genuinely thinks that's not insane? Driving drunk. I live in Sonoma County, California. Make sure you've got a sober driver FFS. The roads around here are never more dangerous than winery tasting room closing time on a sunny weekend. Edit. So many fellow locals in this thread. Hello neighbors. Be safe out there, no matter where you are. Driving Sonoma roads drunk is basically assisted suicide. Assistance coming from the massive curves and double backs. Stop trying to hike up a mountain in flip-flops. Also, don't try to use an air mattress as a mode of transport between islands. Several of these every year. Fellow Croat I see. In my hometown, it somehow became a thing that tourists would rent mopeds. So when you are trying to get to work, you often get stuck behind a flock of tourists on mopeds, riding at 20 miles per hour in formation so you cannot pass them. We are infested with gawking tourists moped gangs. If they want to rent mopeds, at least go the speed limit, and ride in a manner that allows others to pass you. My town has this issue, except with golf carts. Dear tourists, if you want to go slow and smell the sea with the family, get a quadricycle and enjoy the views from the big ass, uninterrupted sidewalk, stop blocking traffic for everyone else just because one of our major roads happens to run along the shore. Thank you, D. Stop feeding the damn seagulls. I worked at Disney World for a few years and the squirrels are vicious. People think it's fun to feed them, so they are completely fearless. They'll hop right into a stroller and grab food from a child. Edit. Absolutely loved going onto Reddit a few hours later and seeing a bunch of aggressive squirrel stories. Spain. We get a shit fuck ton of tourists. Very well behaved for the most part where I am. So, thanks for doing it right, tourists. The worst is littering on the beach, which is thankfully pretty rare. I occasionally see someone put a cigarette butt in the sand. A lot are taken away when they leave, but the sand has a way of hiding stuff, so a lot remain. I'll give you tourists one tip. Night swimming. If you put your keys, glasses, etc. down in the sand, they're gone. Between the sand and the dark, you'll never see them again. Spain here as well, up in a mountain town. For me it's the music noise. Especially on a hiking trail or in a beautiful secluded scenic area in the woods. I do not want to listen to private conversations on speakerphone and music from a loud boombox. These comments make me feel like a good tourist. Seriously. It all basically boils down to don't trash the place and be mindful of your surroundings. Deleted. Clean up your fucking trash. I used to live in a spring break destination which was a small surf town. After spring break, people would be cleaning up pounds upon pounds of beer cans, broken bottles, needles, used condoms. Fucking revolting. Edit for unit pickers. I meant stop throwing your garbage on the ground. There, now get off my cheeks. In Bali, 1997-99 at least, at the end of the days there would be mounds of garbage piled next over the garbage cans. In the middle of the night workers would come, put it all in plastic bags, dig a big hole in the beach and throw it all down in the hole and cover it up. Night, after night, after night. You'd see it slowly working its way back up out of the sand over time. Heartbreaking. Deleted. That's a thing. Amsterdam. Walking around like they are at Legoland, blindly stepping into traffic, oblivious to the fact that people actually live here. We use the bike to get to work, to get groceries. We're not just aimlessly cycling around for the fun of it. I live in the Netherlands, so I'm used to bikes. Amsterdam, however, truly is on another level. The residents ride their bikes like they are ready to kill anyone standing in their way. Deleted. Related. Walking 7 abreast and agonizingly slowly when people have fucking places to be. Leave the wildlife alone. And this doesn't just extend to tourists but to people that live here too. 45 plus coyote attacks last year in no small part because of people giving them food leading to a cull. Bears getting habituated to people because they are being given food leading to them getting killed. Otters and sea lions getting fed. They're not cute cuddly things. They're wild animals and will kill you, and then, because they are doing what they do, they'll get killed because they are dangerous to humans. When in reality they are only dangerous to ignorant rubes with no respect for nature. I live in Florida. Alligators are not your friend. Snakes are not your friend. Leave the birds alone. And stop feeding them. Just respect the land. Clean up after yourself. Be very careful about making and extinguishing your fires, because forest fires start. Don't dump garbage, fuel, grey-black water in ditches. A big one in BC is for tourists to learn how to drive in mountainous areas. Most tourists drive way too slow, leading to road rage, and too many don't know how to stay right on highways except to pass. Or pull over to let people pass you if you don't know how to drive on twisty roads. I once had to drive through a canyon road in Colorado and I was terrified. I'm from a prairie state, very flat. Every so often, there were areas where cars could safely pull over. I used every one of them to allow traffic to pass me and was very grateful each time. Stop being a belligerent asshole just because you're in New Orleans. It's still not an excuse to get blackout drunk, litter, and make hell for food service workers. Visited there for the first time recently. I'm in my late 30s, and figured I'd see lots of drunk younger people. Was surprised by how many 40-plus-year-olds were smashed. Few passed out in corners while their friends tried to wake them up. Was really not what I expected. But the city itself is pretty cool. Deciding they like it so much here that they are going to purchase our homes for over market value so they can turn them into Airbnbs. And in turn, pricing the locals out of ever owning homes in their own town. And then complaining that the service is terrible at the stores and restaurants. This just in, you priced the locals out of the market, so there are no longer service employees. Allowing their kids to do whatever they want. I grew up in a small tourist town that does Civil War reenactments. Ulysses S. Grant lived there when he won the presidency. Once a year they have a weekend where the Boy Scouts take over the town, camping down by the river, taking tours of the historic buildings etc. Every year most of the downtown shops will close for this weekend because of how much the Boy Scouts will steal or vandalize while there. Everyone that lives there dreads that weekend because the troop leaders just let the scouts do whatever they want. Sounds like something they would clean their act up about if it got public attention for the scouts. That's a pretty big hit to their reputation. Stop disrespecting the spot you're visiting. Every time I go to places after tourists have visited, all I see is rubbish, names carved into monuments, gum stuck to the path, and I especially hate it when they are loud. Getting shit-faced, coked up and getting up in people's business, or pick fights with the doorman or bar staff. Or talk about weed and getting stoned the entire time. Or ask me where the red light district is while standing in the red light district. Or renting a bike when the last time you rode one was in preschool. I really feel you on this one. Amsterdam was naturally my first stop on a tour of the Netherlands, and I remember walking around thinking I could live there, and then night came and I quickly changed that mindset, and it was only the tourists. The locals were amazing. Specifically regarding movie TV houses. Unless the house is a museum or has tours, it's almost certainly someone's home. Stay off their porch, don't walk through the yard, and stop throwing pizzas on the roof. The poor people who owned Walter White's house had to put up a giant fence, because the dozens of signs about it were being ignored. Please stop going on the porch of the Hocus Pocus house. She's a nice older lady and shouldn't have to deal with that. Also, stop blocking the ducking road. The others said the most obvious answers, but have spatial awareness and be considerate for the love of God. Don't block an entire walkway so you can take your mediocre pictures. Don't drive a half a mile an hour with your head out of the sunroof blocking traffic so you can look at a famous sign. In New York, if you visit, please walk on the right side of the sidewalk, not the left. Also, if you need to stop and look at your phone or have a conversation with your fellow travelers, step aside. People are walking, and if you abruptly stop, it usually results in someone bumping into you. Also, do not walk like 5 people side by side and walking slowly. People can't get around you. It is infuriating. But, please keep visiting Nick. And if you get lost, don't hesitate to ask the locals. I'm from Philly, not Nick. but I've spent enough time there and around the general area to notice that New Yorkers are actually total kittens, and they love giving directions to lost tourists. They're just in a rush and trying to catch the train and get the hell home in a city of 8 million people. Get out of their way and you're good. Unless you need directions, then multiple people are probably gonna stop and try and help you. Allow the me from 20 years ago to take this opportunity to officially apologize for recreating the Abbey Road picture with my friends during a college trip to London. Don't feel too bad about it. This is so common that there's a live cam pointing at the crossing. Watch for a minute and see how many people pose. https://www.earthcom.com/world/England/London/Abbey Road /Abbey Road_UK. Absolutely chuffed at how much this has entertained everyone. It's slowing down a bit now, but for those of you getting here late, I strongly recommend checking back during the day. It's ridiculous. Forgetting that people live in the community. We had to move out of a sort of touristy area because visitors were out of control. Endless partying at short-term rentals in the neighborhood. Feeling unwelcome at our regular spots because we have very polite kids. The staff was always cool, but out of town people always acted like, how dare we bring a kid out for pancakes on a Saturday morning. I was going to say this. If you get an Airbnb in a residential neighborhood because it's close to the beach, respect the neighborhood. Drinking outside with music playing and whooping it up at 2 AM on a Tuesday because you are on vacation doesn't mean the other people on the street are on vacation too. And definitely don't be an asshole when someone you've just woken up had to put on clothes and come outside to tell you that. We do call the police. If you wanted to party 24 hours a day non-stop, you should have gone someplace that caters to that.